talk about animal tracks in the winter specifically. So when we go out in the woods for a hike or out in nature, we don't always see the animals. They might be hiding from us, or they might just be in a different spot. They're not always right where we're at. So what are some things that we can look for to see if we have animals in the area? I already kind of gave you a clue on one of the things, but does anybody have any ideas?
Look through the window.
Look through the window? Yeah, actually look for the animal. That's a good one. What about you? Right here? A squirrel? Yeah, we can look for squirrels, but what things can we look for to see if an animal might have been in the area? Do you have any ideas? Animal tracks? That's one of them. What about you? Yeah, tracks. That's the main one we're going to talk about today. But there are lots of things we can look for. So one thing we can look for is leftover food. So sometimes we might find things like pieces of a walnut shell left over from a squirrel, or maybe some mussel shells, some shells from little things that live in the creek from a raccoon because they like to eat mussels. We also might see some shed fur or feathers, so that means. So you know how we lose hair sometimes? Our hair kind of falls out. Well, animals, that happens with them too. So they shed fur or feathers. We might see those out in the woods. Another thing we might find is scat. Does anybody know the word scat? Do you know what that means? Other than the grown-ups? That means poop. Because you know what? Everybody poops. So sometimes we'll find animal poop. And actually all animals have a certain type of poop. Their poop all looks different, and that can help us find them. But then the final thing we can do is look for animal tracks. And you know what? Winter is a really good time to do that because sometimes we'll have warmer days where it gets kind of muddy. You guys probably know that if you play outside a lot. And on those warm days, the animals' feet will make little footprints in the mud. And then when there's snow, that's a super good time to look for animal tracks because, you know, just like how we leave footprints in the snow when we walk around, animals leave footprints in the snow too. So that's what I'm going to talk about today is animal tracks. So, what are some important things we can look for in animal tracks? We can look for things like the number and the shape of the toes. So I'm going to show you a picture of an animal track and then also a mold of an animal track. So that means someone made this and it looks exactly like the animal track. And I'll show this to everybody. Does anybody have any guesses what animal this could be from? You raised your hand first, so I'll go to you. Raise your hand. It is not from a doggy, but that's a really good guess. What about over here?
A bear.
It's not from a bear. What about you? Not from a fish. Okay, let's take one more. What about you? That's a really good guess. It is another mammal, which means a furry animal, but this one is from a squirrel. And something that's really cool about the way...
It was a cat.
Yeah, it does look kind of like a cat, doesn't it? But one of the cool things about squirrel tracks is, what do you think? Do you think these right here are the front feet or the back feet? These ones that are in the front? But you know what? Yeah, they are a little bigger. With squirrels, they walk in a way where they put their front feet out first, and then when their back feet come up, they go in front of their front feet. And then when it comes to the number of toes, that's really important with squirrels. So I don't know if everybody can see in the back, but can you guys see how many toes this foot has, the back feet have? Can anybody count those toes?
1, 2, 4.
The toes are the ones right up here. So right up here. So actually there's five toes on the back feet and only 4 toes on the front feet. So that's something that tells us that this is a squirrel too, in addition to the shape of the tracks. Something else we can look at is, in addition to the number of toes, is the shape of the toes. Has anybody seen this track before? Do you know what animal it's from?
Raccoon.
A raccoon. Good job. You got it. So raccoons have really long toes. They kind of look like hands, don't they? Like handprints. Like
They
these.
kind of look like a cat.
So that's pretty cool. So that's something that tells us this is a raccoon, is the shape of their toes.
When is it going to be cat?
We'll get there, okay? Just be patient. So we have this track here. Does anybody have any guesses what this one might be? Something to look for in this one is that the toes look like they're kind of connected.
A dog.
What was your guess? A doggy, that's a good guess, but it's not a doggy. How about you? A bear is another good guess, but they have little pieces of skin that connect their toes. So that tells us maybe they swim. Does anybody have any guesses? A duck is a good guess. What about over here? A frog, that's a good guess too. But you know what? This is from a beaver. So do you guys know what beavers are? They swim in the water and they have the big tail where they can go on the water. So that's a beaver trap. And then another webbed foot is this one right here.
A duck.
A duck. You got that one. That one's kind of easy, isn't it? So it has the toes that look like a normal bird foot, and then they have the little pieces that connect the toes. So that's how we know that that one is a duck. So the next thing we look for is whether they have claw prints, because that tells us something specific. So this one right here, it's kind of hard to see. This one didn't come out very well when I printed it. But does anyone, can you tell, especially on this track here, does it have claw prints or not? Does it have claw prints? So everybody says yes? So it is a dog, because dogs have claws that are always out. So they can't pull their claws back in. Do you guys know an animal that can pull their claws back in? You can just say it out loud. Does anybody know? Dogs can't pull them back in, but there's another animal that can pull their claws. Cats can pull them back in. So this is an example of a cat trap. So if you look really closely, there are no claw prints in the cat trap. So if you guys are outside and you see something that looks like a cat or a dog footprint, you can look for the claws and that'll tell you which one it is. And this is from a bobcat. Another thing we can look for, in addition to all these things we've already talked about, is the shape. And I know we've kind of talked about shape a little bit already, but this one has a super cool shape. What does that look like?
Deer.
A deer trap? But what shape does that kind of look like? Does it look like...
It looks like a bunny one.
Yeah, well, you know what? This one's a deer one. But it's kind of a heart shape, isn't it? So when we see a big heart-shaped track outside, that tells us that that one's a deer track. And this is one of the easiest ones to find. We see those a lot around here. And then another one that has a really specific shape. We already talked about the duck feet. Does this one look kind of like the duck feet, but different? This is from a bird. Does anybody have any guesses what kind of bird it could be? Let me show you the size that it is here. So this is the actual size of the bird's foot. It's a pretty big bird. Does anybody have any guesses? I'll give you another hint. What about you?
Eagle.
An eagle? That's a good guess. This bird is black and they live here in Indiana.
A hawk.
A hawk? That's a good guess. What about you?
A blackbird.
What about you back there? It's not a blackbird. It's a big blackbird. A big one.
Crow.
A crow. So that's what it is. So this one is from a crow. That's what a crow looks like when they walk. You can see they kind of drag their back toe a little bit. And that's what makes these little marks right behind the prints. Another one, which is really cool, is this one right here.
It's a bear.
So this here, do you guys see what shape this is? What does that look like to you? Does anyone know what kind of shape this is here? What about you? What shape is that? A bear? It's not a bear. What do you think this is?
Eagle.
An eagle, that's a really good guess. So yeah, if you look really closely, this right here looks like a big wing print. You can see these really cool wing prints. And just to give us an idea on the size of this bird, this is what their feet look like.
A hawk.
A hawk is a really good guess. It's in the same family with hawks, but it's something that's usually only out at night. Do you have a guess?
It's an eagle.
It's an owl. Good job, you got it. So these ones, they have really big feet, as you can see. And these tracks that lead up to the owl wing print, those are actually rabbit tracks. And the reason why you see the rabbit tracks stop is because owls eat things like rabbits, and it picked the rabbit up, and it was probably going to take it somewhere to go eat it for lunch. So that's what owls do. They eat meat. Okay, so the next thing we can talk about is the movement pattern. So what that means, a movement pattern is kind of how we walk, how an animal walks. So that can be really important. You can look how the tracks, the shape that they kind of walk in on the ground, and that tells us a little bit. So we will look at 4 different types of movement patterns. There are walkers, there are bounders, there are hoppers, and there are waddlers. So those are the main types of movement. We already saw this track earlier. Do you guys remember what this one is? A cat. So this is a bobcat, and they are walkers. Something that you'll notice with walkers is they actually alternate feet for one, so they kind of go like this when they walk. And let me show you actually the size of a bobcat track, because I forgot to do that earlier. This is a bobcat track, so that's how big a bobcat track is. And when they walk, sometimes, and actually a lot of the time, their back feet prints land in their front feet prints, or really close to them. So it can be kind of confusing which foot is which, and sometimes you'll think that they only have 2 feet because of the way it looks, the way they walk, but it's just where their feet prints land. The next one we'll talk about is a bounder. Does anyone remember what this one is? Back there?
Squirrel.
A squirrel. So squirrels are called bounders, and the reason why they're called a bounder is because they actually put their front feet forward and then bring their back feet forward, and then their front feet again and their back feet again, and that's called a bounder. It means that they do kind of almost like little jumps, but not really a hopper. So another one is this one here. We haven't seen this one yet. Does anyone know this track here? Does anyone know? That's a good guess. What about here? A penguin? That's a good guess, but that's not it. What about over here?
A rat?
It's not a rat, but you know, it starts with the same letters. Does anyone have a guess? It lives here, back here. A bunny. It's a bunny rabbit. So this one here, you can see their tracks are kind of in a triangle shape, and let me show you. This is actually a rabbit foot. This is the shape of a rabbit foot, and this is their back feet, so they're kind of long. So sometimes in the tracks, you'll also see that long foot.
What about the front feet?
You know what? After we're finished, everybody gets to have their own track, so you'll get to touch a track then. All right, and then the final one is something called a waddler. So do you remember what this is? A duck. So everybody knows that ducks and penguins too, even though they don't live here, and beavers, they kind of waddle. So the waddlers tend to be big-bodied animals like raccoons or possums if they're a mammal, an animal with fur, or they can be birds that kind of go back and forth like this when they walk, and that's called a waddler. And then the final thing we can look at is what they move toward. So if it's a squirrel, they might be leading up to or from a tree. If it's something like a duck or a goose, they could be leading to or from water, or a beaver. So that's another important thing to look at. Okay, so now I'm going to read this book called Tracks in the Snow. And you'll have to forgive me, you guys, the book is a small one, so I photocopied it so that everybody could hopefully see the pictures a little better. So it might take a minute for me to turn pages, but yeah, Tracks in the Snow by Wong Herbert Yi. Can you see okay over there, or should I scoot a little? All right, good. Okay, so just outside my window, there are tracks in the snow. Tracks. Who made the tracks? Where do they go? I skip across the snowy yard around the old oak tree. Past the garden gate I go, good thing I have the key. It's too big to be a rabbit, no bears this time of year. Is that a hippopotamus hiding over there? What do you think, is it hippo? Tracks in the snow, tracks in the snow. Who made the tracks? Where do they go? In and out of rocks I squeeze along a frozen pond, slip slide across a snowy bridge into the woods beyond. It could have been a duck, but I think they've gone away. I know it's not a woodchuck, they sleep all night and day. Do you see the woodchuck down here sleeping? They hibernate, so he's sleeping. Tracks in the snow, tracks in the snow. Who made the tracks? Where do they go? I peek under a fallen log, then tramp stamp up a hill. Quickly down the other side, the tracks keep going still. Could it be a fox, a dog, maybe a squirrel or a kitten? Oh, look here, what's this I see? Why, someone's lost a mitten. Tracks in the snow, tracks in the snow. Who made the tracks? Where do they go? My feet are getting oh so cold, there's still no sign of it. And even though the time is late, I really hate to quit. Snowflakes fall softly, as quiet as a mouse. Hey, the tracks are leading right back to my house. Wait, I know who made these tracks. I know where these tracks go. I made them yesterday, out playing in the snow. They weren't animal tracks at all, they were her footprints. All right, so the next thing we are gonna do is you guys are actually gonna get to have your own track. We're gonna make some prints and we're gonna figure out what each person's track is. So everybody is gonna look at the different clues I talked to you about and then we're gonna make some guesses. We have a key over on the wall over there that will help you figure it out as well in case you don't remember what all the tracks are, but some of them might be tracks that we didn't talk about today.
First clue, what shape is it? Paws. Animals such as bears and raccoons have paws. Bird. Woodpeckers and owls have bird-shaped feet. Webbed. Ducks, geese, and other animals that live in the water have webbed feet. Hooves. Animals like deer and moose have hooves. A hoof is like a big toenail. What shape is your track? Second clue, claws or no claws? Not all animals show their claws in the tracks they leave. When looking at prints of dogs and house cats, you will see that a dog's prints show claw marks, while a cat's claws do not show in its tracks. Wild cats, like bobcats, also keep their claws pulled in as they move around, so their prints will be clawless too. Wild dogs, like coyotes and foxes, on the other hand, leave claw marks in their tracks. Most other mammals show claw marks. Does your track have claw marks? Third clue, how many toes? Knowing how many toes your animal track has can be very helpful when identifying what animal you have. 2 toes. Deer and moose are examples of animals with 2 toes. 3 toes. Many types of birds, such as pheasant, have 3 toes. 4 toes. Animals such as dogs, cats, rabbits, and foxes have 4 toes. 5 toes. Skunks, beavers, porcupines, and possums are types of animals with 5 toes. How many toes does your track have? Fourth clue, what size is it? Sometimes different kinds of animals make tracks the same shape. Squirrels and chipmunks do this, and so do many kinds of cats. But that doesn't have to stop a smart nature detective. You can just measure it. Mountain lion tracks will be bigger than lynx, which are bigger than bobcats, which are bigger than house cats. Measure your track by finding a part of your hand that is the same length. Raccoon. Raccoon. Gray squirrel. Gray squirrel. Bobcat. Bobcat.
Deer.
White-tailed deer. Deer. Coyote. Coyote. Cottontail rabbit. Rabbit. Great horned owl. Standing owl. Beaver. Beaver. American crow. Crow. Wood duck. Wood duck. Red fox. Fox. Pheasant. Badger. Mink. River otter. Porcupine. Groundhog. Canada goose. Pied-billed grebe. Blue jay. Possum. Downy woodpecker. Skunk.